I'm warning you immediately. We are recording the meeting to be able to publish it later on. We are going to develop or to launch a dedicated channel, and then you or your colleagues might be willing to watch this video once again to avoid any kind of omissions. So welcome at our webinar, which is dedicated to the launch of the Social Outcomes Fair. You've seen this topic in your invitations. It's quite an innovative phenomenon. For those who have a good comment in English, I will explain that fair, which sounds yarmarok in Ukrainian, is my invention. I decided to translate it as fair rather than marketplace. So today we've got lots of experts who know what to do to achieve the outcomes. Let me introduce our speakers. It will be a brief introduction at first, and then our speakers will introduce themselves. Miss Phyllis Constanza. Phyllis, please wave your hand. Say hello. Something like that. Phyllis Constanza.
Hello.
Ms. Constanza is the president and the founder of OutcomesX project. And afterwards, you will listen to Mr. Jason Saul. Yes, we can see him, a well-known researcher, Chicago University professor and the author of many important fundraising works that actually have changed the paradigm of modern fundraising. Jason joined Phyllis in creation of this marketplace, of this fair, and on the other hand, he's a founder of a significant organization which is called Impact Genome Registry. He was one of the Impact Genome developers. He will tell us more about the principles of project evaluation and other aspects of this innovative idea. Afterwards, we've got the researchers from the Impact Genome team, represented by Mr. Jonathan Hertel. Say hello, please, Jonathan. And his colleague, Hayong Gray. She is somewhere. Yes, Hayong, please say hello. Good afternoon. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit late. Yes, thank you. Please select English or Ukrainian channel. So Jonathan and Hayong are people working for Impact Genome Registry. Phyllis will give you more details. Actually, this social outcomes marketplace is a new initiative, while the Impact Genome Registry has been active for nearly 8 years. They've got quite an impressive experience, and they will inform you on their cooperation with nonprofit organizations and so on. And finally, we will listen to our colleague, Mr. Yuri Privalov, the head of the Intellectual Perspective, a well-known Ukrainian organization. Yuri, please show yourself. I do not see him for some reason, but maybe he will join us a little bit later. He's connected. He will inform you on further activities related to institutionalization of this project. Maybe some colleagues failed to participate in our today's discussion, so Yuri will let you know when and how they can participate in other events. I'm sure that you're interested in the project itself. That's why, without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Miss Constanza, and I will be also moderating the event. Phyllis, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dima. And it's great to be in touch again. And this is particularly important for me. I used to live in Kiev, so I have a strong connection to the country and to the people. And I'm so honored to be able to participate in this very first trade. It's actually we are actually, I've gotten some messages saying, wait, this sounds like the typical language we use to describe what we're doing, when in fact, this is a really new concept. So I'm so thrilled that we can do this very first outcomes trade, we're calling it, in Ukraine. And so I'll talk through first and explain a little bit about what this is. OutcomesX, and I am the co-founder along with Jason Saul, is building the very first marketplace to buy and sell social outcomes. Today, we're talking to the sellers of those social outcomes. All of you who are participating now have the opportunity to participate in this very first trade. And we are working with UBS, which is the largest wealth management firm globally. And they are providing $2 million to nonprofits in Ukraine to deliver on 2 social outcomes, which I'll discuss shortly. Let's go to the next slide. So why are we doing this? Why are we building a market to buy and sell social outcomes? Well, first of all, as all of you know on the phone, it is extremely difficult for nonprofits to raise money. It's hard for them to find those who want to make donations or the buyers of social outcomes. And the cost of raising money is exorbitant. Most nonprofits can't afford the fancy fundraisers or the glossy brochures. And so it costs nonprofits $20 for every $100 that they raise, which is crazy. I mean, if you compare it to corporations or governments, it costs governments only about $4 for every $100 that they raise. So it's extremely inefficient. And then for the buyers, it's very hard to find the best nonprofits. And let's go to the next slide. This is particularly true in Ukraine. It is certainly not lost on any of you on this call that more than 99% of all of the funding that's going to Ukrainian humanitarian assistance is actually going outside of Ukraine. It's going to refugees who have left the country. It is going to non-Ukrainian organizations. And it's the people living in Ukraine. It's the organizations working on the ground who have the greatest needs. And it's those of you who are delivering services on the ground, not foreign organizations that know how to deliver services the best in your country. We also know that more than 20% of everybody affected by the war in Ukraine will end up with mental health issues. And in addition to that, we see, because of school closures or the lack of ability for children to get to school, that learning losses for children will be substantial as well, which is why we are focusing on those 2 specific outcomes related to mental health and improved learning. Next slide. So OutcomesX is trying to build these solutions to bring together this ineffective and inefficient marketplace right now. We, OutcomesX, have an exclusive relationship with something called the Impact Genome Registry. You'll hear more about the registry, but right now we have about 2 million nonprofits with data uploaded to the registry, which means that for people who want to buy social outcomes, it's much easier for them to identify those nonprofits or social enterprises that are delivering the best outcomes at the best price. And so it is this registry that really powers and fuels the marketplace. And we'll talk more about the registry because all of you who are interested in participating in this trade will have to upload your data to the registry. We will also help you with that. We can have, we'll be taping a translated version of how to upload your data. Jonathan will go through that with Hai Young today, so you know exactly what you need to have available before you upload your data to the registry. And we really encourage all of you to do this, because not only are we expecting the $2 million from UBS, but we are also going to be reaching out to other funders to try to raise even more money for those of you working on the ground. So as you can see from this slide here, OutcomesX is the marketplace bringing together the buyers of social outcomes. They can be governments, they can be corporations, they can be foundations, they can be individuals, and the sellers of social outcomes, which can be nonprofits or social enterprises. And we're doing that through our exclusive partnership with the registry. And the way this will work is that you will upload your data. UBS then will identify which nonprofits it would like to work with on this particular trade. And they'll make that decision based on a number of different factors. They'll make that decision based on the location. They want to make sure that they're reaching a broad geographic region. They'll make the decision based on the cost to deliver the outcomes. And they'll also make the decision based on the quality of the data that you're uploading to the registry. So to go into more detail about these two outcomes, we have, they're detailed here on this slide. The first one is improved mental state or mental well-being in English. And what this means is that this outcome is satisfied if the beneficiary, so the children you're reaching out to, attains at least one of the following within the 12-month period from when this starts. One is an improved sense of their emotional state. So that includes things like feelings of positivity, hope, happiness. The second one is improved sense of psychological well-being or state. So feeling like their life has meaning and purpose. And improved sense of their social state. So whether or not they feel connected to people, do they feel like they belong, etc. That's the first outcome. And the second outcome, and we expect that most nonprofits will probably only deliver one of these. So you're either probably delivering mental health well-being or improved academic performance, although there may be some of you who can do both. But the improved academic performance is satisfied if children demonstrate one or more of the following outcomes. So improvement or growth in their scores, so their academic scores, levels of proficiencies on certain assessments that are done, like tests or quizzes, exams, things like that, whether or not their grades go up, or new and increased enrollment in more difficult coursework. Next slide. So why is this good for nonprofits? We hope that this marketplace will be a great leveler. So right now, nonprofits, as I said earlier, on the ground in Ukraine aren't getting the financing. The money is going to large international organizations who are working primarily outside of Ukraine. We don't think that's fair. We want this to level the playing field, not just in Ukraine, but globally. So we want nonprofits, regardless of their size, regardless of how much money they spend on fundraising brochures, we want them to have as equal access to money. This shouldn't be about who has the best fundraiser. This should be about who is delivering the best outcomes on the ground. We also hope that this is going to minimize your overhead, because many nonprofits are spending a fortune, as you saw before. 20% of funding, of money is going to cover fundraising. And then finally, this enables nonprofits to focus on quality work. The money that comes to nonprofits through the marketplace isn't restricted to specific activities. The marketplace says to nonprofits and social enterprises, hey, we trust you to do what you do best. We're going to give you, it's in essence, an unrestricted grant to deliver an outcome, which is the best kind of money that nonprofits can get, because it enables you to be really innovative. And it enables you to try new things to deliver even better outcomes at a better cost. So the way this is going to work is you will be notified as to how many children, or we call them verified impact units, which each verified impact unit, or VIU, represents one child. So UBS may decide to buy 1,000 verified impact units from a particular nonprofit. Let's, just make up a nonprofit, Education for All in Ukraine. I don't know if that's really a nonprofit in Ukraine, but let's just pretend it is. And UBS buys 100 of those units. They pay for that. We then will verify the outcomes. And let's say at the end of a 12-month period, you not only deliver the 100 improved learning outcomes for children, but you're so efficient, you deliver 150 improved learning outcomes for children. So that means instead of 100, 150 children have improved their learning outcomes. That means you're going to get 150 tokens that will be issued to you. 100 will go to the buyer, which is UBS. And then you'll have 50 extra that you have the possibility to sell on our marketplace. And maybe we can even convince UBS to buy those extra units as well. So this really encourages and incentivizes nonprofits to be as efficient as possible. So let's go to the next slide. And I believe I am, am I handing over now to the next speaker? Yes, this is going to Jason Saul, who is the author of The End of Fundraising. Jason, over to you.
Thanks, Phyllis. You did an amazing job explaining what we're trying to do. I have a couple different connections to this. One, Phyllis and I went to graduate school together at Harvard, probably 25 years ago, maybe 30. And also my family comes from Kiev in Ukraine. So we are both quite passionate about what we're doing here, which is why we chose you to really be the starting point of this revolution that is a revolution in elevating the importance of the nonprofit organization. In the past, nonprofits have been seen as charities, dealing with the leftovers of the economy, whatever money people have after they pay their bills and put their savings in the bank, they give to charity. But we are clearly seeing the importance of nonprofits today as central to the economy, as the lifeblood of the country. It isn't a leftover charity anymore. And as a result, we need to elevate the importance of your work and change the way that nonprofits get paid for their work. As Phyllis mentioned, today, nonprofits get paid with leftover donations, and you're expected to do a lot of work for a little bit of money. That's been the case because it's been very difficult for nonprofits to measure their impact and difficult for nonprofits to communicate their results. But in a world that we live in today, where things are happening on the ground in Ukraine and people want things to change, there are organizations willing to pay money to get results. And you are the organizations who can deliver those results. I run a research center at the University of Chicago called the Center for Impact Science. I'm also an author and an entrepreneur. And my passion and work has been about elevating and empowering the nonprofit organization to be an important part of the economy. And the reason why that's crucial today is because you are producing a product. It may not be a computer, it may not be a piece of furniture or a piece of real estate, but you are producing a product. Every nonprofit is producing a product called impact. And we have not named those products. We have never standardized those products like the way that Phyllis just did. And most importantly, we, meaning you and I and the field, have never priced your products. We've just said, please give us some money. That ends today. You deserve dignity. Your work deserves value, and it deserves to be priced not on what it cost you, but what it's worth to the people that want to buy or pay for a result. The End of Fundraising, a book I wrote years ago, is about turning fundraising on its head. It's not about we don't have to raise money anymore. It's about we don't need to have to beg for charity. We can now sell our impact. We have results that people want. The marketplace that we've launched is really a platform, a technology that helps connect you, the people who are producing really important changes for humanity, to the people who have money and want to pay for those changes to take place, whether it's creating jobs, educating children, helping improve mental health, whether it's increasing access to the arts, getting people into housing, providing food security. Every one of these goals or outcomes or changes that you are trying to create in society is a product. And the End of Fundraising is about recognizing the value of your work and giving you a way to sell your product, just like everybody else does. And what we're doing as a business is building a platform for you to be able to sell that product. And as Phyllis said, raise money more effectively. This is the first time in the world that this has ever been done. There have been social impact bonds that are highly constructed arrangements, but there has never been a way for a nonprofit to sell the impact of their work to people who want to pay you for your work and not go through a whole cumbersome and difficult fundraising process of filling out lots of different forms and guessing who wants to give you money. This is very simple. When Phyllis talks about uploading your data, it's filling out one form for all of our funders. And we will continue to bring new funders and new money every year to Ukraine and to the work you're doing. And you fill out your information once and people discover you. It's sort of like online dating, but for money. So that is what we mean by the end of fundraising, is sending out emails, hosting gala dinners, filling out applications. We don't need to do that anymore. The future is about entering your information once into a place where everybody can find you. And that's what we hope to do to help you do the important work you're doing. Okay, next slide. Our purpose in doing this work is really to empower civil society organizations. What I mean by this, not having leverage, is in the past, we're not in control. The people with the money are in control. But we're trying to change that. We are trying to put you back in control by saying you are producing results. You are helping people in ways that the world wants to pay for, but they don't know how to find you. And if they do, they will pay you. Now you have leverage because you are producing a product, an outcome, a result, a change in the world that people want to see. And now that we can help you document that and measure that and put a price tag on it, you will have leverage because people will want what you have to offer. And you will have the ability to communicate it in a very simple and compelling way. This does not cost anything to nonprofits. It is free. The people who give the money away pay the cost of this work. So this is really all about empowering your organizations to change the way we do fundraising and make it easier for you, as Phyllis said, so that you can go back and do the important work you do and not spend all of your time on fundraising or not feeling helpless and powerless because you don't have connections to political people or you don't have a lot of resources to put into brochures or websites. We intend to change that and level the playing field so that everybody has an equal chance to get money. Okay, moving on, Phyllis. Next slide. Thanks, Izzy. This is an example of how we can turn your work into a product. We call it an impact unit. Just like we can create units of carbon and climate change to reduce impact on the environment, we can now create a unit of societal impact, like improving someone's educational performance or helping someone get a job. And your work is designed to change these outcomes and produce this product. So we simply ask you, when we ask you to fill out the form, how many people did you impact? What things are you doing to help them, which you'll see on the right side. We're doing things like tutoring. We're helping provide rigorous coursework. We're helping students by giving them a test and an assessment along the way. We ask who you help. We're helping young kids in secondary school. We ask where you're working, the name of your program. And in the bottom right, we ask you how much it costs to help one student. You don't have to figure that out. You just have to put in your total budget and the total number of people that you help, and we'll help you price your product. But this is a really important point. It isn't about stories and pictures anymore, because we all have stories. It's about results, and it's about showing that you're actually making a difference. And that will limit the amount of work you have to do in writing and fundraising, because you'll be able to tell your story in a very succinct and brief way that gets you money as quickly as possible. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to hand it over to Izzy, who's going to share with you the process. Again, this is intended to be very simple. And the last thing we want to do is create another form for you to fill out. If you join us on this revolution, and if you believe in what we're trying to do, take the time to fill out this form once. And our promise to you is that we will continue to bring new money into the system, into the platform, without requiring you to fill out another application again and again. And ultimately, at some point, there will only be once that you will have to fill out a form for all of your fundraising. That is our dream, and it starts happening right now. So Izzy, over to you.
Thank you, Jason. So how do we actually put this into action, and what are next steps for you as the organizations listening to this? Well, step one will be going to outcomesx.com/Ukrainian relief. And if you go there, if you're more comfortable in Ukrainian, feel free to switch the language on the website. And in that page, you'll find a button that says Start Selling Outcomes. Click that button and you'll complete a pre-screen form. After you complete that pre-screen form, we'll follow up with some information, including this webinar recording, a welcome package that walks you through exactly how to fill out the impact genome registration, and then also the link to go and fill that out. Once we've sent you that link, you'll complete the impact genome registration, and based on other organizations who have filled this out in the past, that should take about 1 to 2 hours. And our ask to you is to have all of this done, so the pre-screen and the impact genome form, complete by November 15th. And in order to optimize your time and fill out this form as quickly as possible, we suggest you read through the welcome package ahead of time. Make sure you have someone who has knowledge of the program. So what is the theory of change? What are the different design components? Where are you operating, and who are your beneficiaries available to fill out that form? We also request that you have some budget information available. And then if you have any other information, such as anecdotes or any qualitative or quantitative evidence that you can upload, that would also be beneficial to the process and speeding it up. After you've completed the pre-screen and the impact genome registration, UBS, the buyer, will select the organizations based on the reports that are generated by the impact genome verifiers. So you'll hear more from Jonathan and Haiyang shortly about exactly what that process looks like to receive that report. But UBS will select it and will look through those forms and then select organizations that they're going to partner with in January. One thing that I'd like to note is for those organizations who are not selected, you will still be able to list your outcomes on the Impact Genome website after the fact. So just because you aren't selected by UBS, there are other buyers who may be interested in your outcomes, and we highly recommend that at the end of your program cycle, you follow up and submit your results again so that you can get that, you can sell those outcomes. So that will be the next step. Once UBS selects the organizations they're going to partner with, those selected organizations will complete a cycle of their program up to a year, and they'll update their impact genome verification to reflect the most recent outcomes. So we'll go through what this process looks like, but if you go to the impact genome website, you can take your old report and update it with the most recent information. So instead of going through a 1 to 2 hour process to register, it will take about 15 minutes to complete this second verification. Once you've completed that, that proof of verified impact will be sent over to UBS, and they'll pay you directly for the impact that you've gotten verified. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jonathan and Haiyang, who will go over more specifically, what does this registration process look like in Impact Genome?
Thanks so much, Izzy. So I just wanted to do some quick introductions of our team and names that you might see through this process before we get into the demo itself. I'm Jonathan Hertel. I'm our manager of data and analytics. I'm joined by Haiyang Ray, who is our senior social impact associate. Haiyang is likely the person that you will be communicating with in the sort of once you submit your results and are getting verified. So you'll recognize her name. You may also hear from Chris Sear, who's our chief operating officer, but does a lot of interacting with folks like you directly as you may have questions that we receive about the process. Throughout all of this, know that we are here to help. You can contact the team via email at info@outcomesx.com, or you'll see in the platform itself, there's this little question mark symbol, and you can use that to submit a help ticket, which will also be sent to the email, and you can get any assistance that you need. We are here to help. We know that this is new for everyone, so we want to make sure that you are able to get the support that you need. So if you'll flip to the next slide, I also just want to do a little bit of introduction of what is Impact Genome. So you're going to be sending your data along to us and participating in this structured reporting platform. We at Impact Genome over the years have seen this big challenge where nonprofits and funders of social impact and researchers of social impact are all talking about the same things, but they might not be using the same language. So a really big part of this project has been standardizing the language of social impact so that we can start to build this impact registry that we can use for helping to revolutionize fundraising and make sure that you as organizations who are producing social impact can be supported. But it starts with this layer of standardized language and being able to reuse that data. If you go to the next slide, what this actually means in practice is that we have worked with practitioners, with funders, with researchers to really develop taxonomies, standardized language around different components of your program so that you can enter your information through a structured report. So you'll be reporting, as we talked about, on the outcomes you produce. What is that change that you want to see in the world for your beneficiaries? The activities, the intervention activities that you use to get there. There might be a lot of different ways of working on particular outcomes, including the two that we've chosen for this project. There are lots of different strategies. So what are the activities that you use? We'll also ask you about your beneficiaries and the context in which you're doing that work. And all of that is standardized language that we've built off of extensive work looking at research, talking to practitioners like you to understand what's actually happening on the ground. And we've done that across lots of different areas of social impact that you see on the right side. So if you go to the next slide, what does this actually mean in practice? What are you going to be doing? Step one is that you're going to be reporting your impact. Young is going to demonstrate what the system actually looks like. But as Izzy mentioned, once you receive that invitation, you can come in and register your program in our system. This can be completed by any nonprofit program, large or small. We have really designed this as a flexible system by nonprofit programs, social enterprise projects, governmental projects. We want to be able to take in your data and help you report on your impact. You're going to be reporting on data you have. You don't need to collect new data for this project. We want to know where you're at this point. Again, typical completion time is 1 to 2 hours. You can save that and come back to it. You don't have to do that all at once. And you can have multiple team members contribute to that. You'll be able to add folks to the system so they can come in and complete parts of that reporting process that they may have more knowledge about. The result of this is that you're going to be able to create a universal impact profile that you can share with donors and funders. You'll be able to update it in future years with a much shorter version of this reporting process because you'll simply be saying, hey, here's what we did this year, and here's how it was different than last year. Again, throughout this process, we are here to help. info@outcomesx.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Next slide is about what happens after you do this. After you report your impact, our team is going to review it. Specifically, in this case, Young is going to take a look at that data, and she's going to get in touch with you if we have questions, and ultimately lead to certifying your program as impact verified and verifying these units so that you can be considered by UBS for this process. So in addition to this evidence-based self-assessment survey reporting platform and our communication around verifying your impact, you'll also receive an Impact Genome scorecard. That is a nice one-page report that you can share about your program. You can share it with prospective other donors. You can submit it with grant applications or other final reports. And it's going to help contextualize the results of your program based on the data that you've submitted, but also what we know from having looked at lots and lots of programs working on these same outcomes. You'll also receive that placement in the impact registry if you so choose. You can opt out of that if you wish, but we encourage you to participate in that. We think there is significant value, and as Jason and others have said, the goal here is really being able for you to be able to see your impact in that platform, and for funders to be able to see your impact in that platform. There's also opportunities for being able to make your data more portable, being able to use it with other grants management platforms. And of course, again, being able to re-verify in the future with significantly lower overhead, really not having to take much time at all to talk about future results for this same program. So if we go to the next slide, you're going to be going to impactgenome.org/social programs if you want to learn more, but impactgenome.org is the place to go. I'm going to turn it over to Hayoung in one moment to actually demo this system, but I just want to say one more thing. If you flip to the next slide, just to reiterate, this system is designed to be very flexible. Yeah, this system is designed to be very flexible so you can report on many different types of outcomes. For this project, we are looking for your programs that focus on the first one, improved mental state, or you'll see it in the system as improved mental well-being, or improved academic performance. So these slides are going to be in here. You're going to have the text of these outcomes, but you'll also see these in the system itself. I just wanted to reiterate them here because Hayoung's going to be referencing them in the demo itself. But again, we are looking for programs that are focused on these outcomes, which will hopefully make it a little bit easier in the system. Just as a reminder, pick one of those, and the questions that you're going to see are going to be relevant to those outcomes. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Hayoung.
Thank you. Can you see my screen now? Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again for joining today. My name is Hayoung Ray. My role is Senior Social Impact Associate. As John said, I'll be likely to reviewing and verifying your impact genome reports this year. So most of you will likely communicate with me at some point. So nice to meet you all. So now I'll walk through the registration and reporting process. Again, you will receive a recording of this demonstration along with a welcome package, which includes the link to our Impact Genome website that you're seeing right here, and other detailed instructions for the reporting process. So you're looking at our Impact Genome website. There's a quick access link to Impact Registry. As John mentioned, feel free to check it out when you're in our website. I won't get into it today, but just wanted to point that out. So just to get started with the registration, you will find a login link up at the top here. So once you click on it, it's going to ask you to sign in. But for your case, since all of you are new to our system, you will first have to register your organization account. So there's a link called register here. So if you click on it, we'll be asking you to fill out a simple form that it's really asking you about general information about you and your organization. So once you create the organization account, you should be able to log in. But if you have any trouble logging in or running into some technical questions or issues, please use this question mark icon up here. And that's a really quick access for you to fill out a help desk ticket, and we'll receive it and we'll be able to get back to you to resolve the issues you're facing. So once you log in, you will see your organization terminal. So this is a made-up sample organization first off, and the list of programs listed here are also examples that we set up for demonstration. So now let's walk through the outlook of this terminal. So at the top, you'll see some helpful resources like tutorial videos or frequently asked questions document. Feel free to check them out. They're very helpful. And also always there's a question mark icon so you can fill out a help tickets. One thing I want to really point out is that, as John mentioned, you should be able to invite additional users to this account. So your colleagues or your team members to work on this reporting process together. So in order to do that, click on your email account at the top, and there's settings option. There you can add additional users information like the name and email address. Then our system will send out an invitational invite to that additional user so they can access the same terminal. let's go back to the terminal. So let's get into the rest of the section. So on the left hand here, you will see the organization information. And you can edit any of this information at any time by clicking on this pencil icon here. And on the right side, these are the individual programs. So once you add a program information, you'll be able to see something like this. But since you're all new to our system, this will appear blank for you. So what you will need to do is click this Add Program button at the top to start the registration process of each program. So I have pulled up a pre-filled sample program registration page. So this is not an impact genome report yet. This is more of a guided program registration form. So first, we'll ask you to really share the basic program information like program name, program description, just a few sentences long, and then the location of the operation. And then here you will have option to opt in, promote to donors, which means you want to promote your program's information to other donors in our impact registry we introduced you earlier. So this is optional. The next, we'll ask you to identify your program's type. Most of you are probably direct service, since you're working directly with individuals or families. But there are other types that you can also select. And based on which program classification you choose here, you'll have different options to select for the beneficiary types. So as I said, if you are direct service, you're likely to choose individuals or households as your beneficiary types. The next, we'll ask you to identify right impact areas. So you can select more than one, and this is basically a higher level than the outcomes, like a bigger categories for you to start thinking about which area your program's impact belongs to. So in your case, it's likely to be education or public health. As John mentioned, the outcomes we're looking for is academic improvement or the mental health well-being. So these are probably likely impact areas you'll be selecting. But feel free to read about other impact areas and description here as well. Then the next section here, now you're finally able to select actual outcomes that your program is designed to produce in the short term. So your selected impact areas will appear at the top on the left side. This is really to help you find the relevant outcomes quickly. So as I said, as an example, under education, there's K-12 student achievement subcategory. And within that, you'll be able to find improved academic performance outcome that we discussed earlier. Another one, maybe the mental health well-being outcome. So under the public health, you will find mental health subcategory, where you can find improved mental well-being outcome. So for the first timers, this can be a little bit confusing. So there's a really easy keyword function up here. So you can just simply type in mental health. Then you can find all the relevant outcomes that will appear quickly. So there's other tools that's available. So feel free to utilize that. But also, once you selected all the outcomes, you should be able to see all the selected outcome list here. Feel free to remove it if one is no longer relevant. So make sure that you got a good list that you feel good about. And then you can move on. So this page is really important. We're asking you to select one primary outcome of your program. We want to know the social outcome that your program is most focused on producing within a typical year. As John mentions, most of you will likely to select either improve academic performance, as you can see here, or improve mental health well-being. And then I'm going to move on to the very last page here. Now, this is the last review really section that you can look at all the information you have provided so far and make sure you feel good about this. And at any point of this process, if you feel confused and unsure, please reach out to us, and we would love to help you and support you through this process. I know selecting the outcomes can be confusing, so please utilize us. We're here to assist you. And yeah, once you feel good about this, you should be able to start creating a report and finish the program registration process. And throughout this whole process, there's a button called Save and Close, so you can pause and come back to it later. So you don't have to finish all at once in one place. Do we have any questions, Sean?
We don't have any questions in the chat that haven't already been answered, so I think you can keep moving.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go back to the terminal. So once you have registered a program successfully, you will see something like this, a program name and program description you provided, and the classification, beneficiary type, the primary outcome. So make sure this information also appears correctly. And if you want to edit or update any of this information, you can just go back to the registration page by clicking this action drop-down option and edit program. That will take right back to where we just were. So you can update any of the information appearing here. But if everything looks good to you, you're now ready to start the actual report. In order to get to the start a report, you will click View Reports options here. And that will take you to the program specific terminal. And here you will, this is also a sample reports that we have set up for demonstration. So once you have submitted reports, you will see all the past reports showing up here like this. But for you, since you're new users, you won't see any reports. So you can just get started by clicking Start Report button here. So the first thing we ask you when you start creating a new report is about your reporting period. When does this report cover? Unless this is a brand new program, you should have a recently completed cycle of a program, which is typically a year long. As an example, this could be a calendar year or a school year if you work with students who are at schools. I'm going to pick random dates just for the demonstration for now. But while I'm doing that, I want to remind you that our system works based on the past actual data. So you can't select the future dates. So our reporting period will only accept the past dates up today. Just remember that all the following report questions from here on will refer to this selected program cycle here. So once you're ready, you can hit the click the Create Report, and it will take you to the actual report. Let's give it 1 second. Here we are. So on the first page, you will see the program information showing up again. Make sure these are everything is correctly reflected. And then you will see on the left side all these sections listed. That's based on the standardized taxonomies, the logic model that John introduced you earlier. And each section has a little circles next to it, which really indicates the sections are completed, answered, or not. So if it's a full circle, that means it's answered. There's no questions that haven't been answered. And if it's empty or half circle, that means some of the questions are not answered yet. So you can easily find the sections that hadn't been completed. There are a lot of questions under each sections here, and it can be time consuming. So feel free to download at least the report questions down here. There's a link to a PDF form of all the questions in our report. So you can maybe prepare your responses ahead. But remember that our system is dynamic, so some of the questions will not appear in this PDF form until you actually go through the systems. But most of the questions should be available in this PDF copy. And at any point of during this process, you can hit Save and Continue button at the bottom, so you can save all the responses you have filled out. So you can safely exit and come back to pick up where you left off. So now I will briefly go over a few important sections to kind of give you a preview of what type of questions we'll ask in the report. So let's go to Outcomes section. Here, you will see the primary outcome you already selected during the program registration process. So that will appear here. And then following, we will ask you to select up to 5 different secondary outcomes to demonstrate that your program's impact goes beyond just the primary outcome up here. And then activities sections under the core components. There will be a fairly long list of most common activities and strategies based on your program's primary outcomes. So focus on identifying which one of these activities belong to the scale 5, which is the most important and relevant components of your program. Because later we'll ask you to rank the 5 most important activities. So even though the list is long, try to focus on what's the most important components of your program. I'll take you to the impact section. So this is where we ask you about your outcome impact data. First, we'll ask you about the number of the beneficiaries. For most of you, it will be individuals. So how many individuals your program was able to serve, reached, and then engage with your program. Then we'll ask you about the number of the achieved outcomes, which means those individuals who met the criteria listed in the primary outcome definition above. Among everyone that you serve, how many of them were able to actually meet this criteria? And then after that, you'll be given space to talk about how you are measuring this or tracking this outcome data. And we have some follow-up questions to ask you more about the type of measurement you're using and methodologies. And here there's an evidence upload section where if you have a copy of your internal impact report or actual survey questions that you're using, feel free to upload them here so we can take a look at it, and it will really help us to understand better how you're measuring this impact. Then I'm gonna go to the budget section. So this is also important. We want to learn about how much it really costs for you to serve the individuals you're serving. So really the budget doesn't mean what you plan to spend, or this is not even the organizational budget. This is about the specific program and the actual cost of operation of that program during the reporting period. So yeah, please read the description up here before you fill out the number. At the end, you will have a chance to look at all the responses you have provided in this PDF form. This is very useful for you to keep as a copy before you submit the report, so you can have a copy of the record of your responses. You can click this arrow button here to download it. And I want to remind you that our system will catch you before you can submit the report if you haven't completed every section yet. So right here, obviously, I haven't completed every section. So if I try to submit, it's gonna catch me and say, hey, you have to review some responses. You haven't answered all the questions. So don't worry about submitting the report before you actually completed it accidentally. Any questions here? John?
I believe we've got a couple of questions in the chat, but I think that they need translation so that we can help assist here. But certainly other folks.
Може, я скажу пару слів, тоді не треба
Well,
буде
We don't need to translate them. I will give a couple of answers. It will be faster. There is a question about translation of our slides. I have already provided this response. So now for everyone, we have drafted a welcome package with detailed step-by-step instructions on the registration process and submitting the reports. There is a structure of this report, so you can additionally check this information prior to registration and submitting the report. And this welcome package includes also answers to some of your potential questions. This document will be disseminated via email. We'll be using emails you provided during registration. And I will send my personal email. If you have difficulties with writing in English, please contact me in Ukrainian. If for some reason you struggle, then please contact me. The second question was whether the reports are supposed to be submitted in English. The answer is yes, because all our researchers who are going to verify your outcomes are English speaking, as you can see. However, we realize that it might be a challenge for some organizations. And Phyllis has also mentioned this, and I will reiterate, we are going to support you, will help you with submitting the reports.
Great, thank you.
Let me
I
remind
also
you.
see a hand up from Vasilina. Am I pronouncing that
Да.
correctly?
Да. Да, можна я закінчу?
May I finish first, and we'll
Oh,
give
sure,
you the floor.
sorry. Please continue.
Ми будемо вам допомагати.
So we will be supporting you with the translation. Please don't hesitate to contact us. We will help you in the real-time mode. We will be accessing the registry together with you and will accompany you during the registration. And please inform us if you need to translate some texts. And Phyllis, now over to you.
Great, thank you so much. There's a hand up, Vasilina. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have the question. How do we start with Ukraine? And because the war started only this year, so we will not be able, for example, we have not been doing this work last year, so we cannot now give the information only probably from last 8 months, yes. And how do you see this, or how do you see the starting point? And also, does it mean that all the impact, it's like paid after it's completed? Like the buyers buy the results after they are done, or there are any pre-financing? Because this is one of the like advance money. This is one of the issues for nonprofits now.
Yeah, you know what, Jonathan, why don't I start with the second question and you answer the first question? Really important questions. So yes, we do understand that we are asking smaller, oftentimes nonprofits to participate in this trade, and many will need money upfront, the working capital, in order to deliver the services. So UBS has generously agreed to provide organizations with some money upfront so they can start the project with that money. So you don't have to wait for those organizations that need the money upfront. You don't have to wait to the end of the project to get the funding. Some funding will be provided upfront. Jonathan, the first question, do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. So it's totally fine in that date selection if the term that you're looking at is shorter than a year. We just don't want it to be longer than a year. So for example, you've been running the program for 8 months, that's fine. That section will take those dates. if you've got questions at any time about what's the right scope of this report, or do these dates make sense, don't hesitate to get in touch. info@outcomesx.com. Go ahead and email that. We'll definitely be able to help with that. But yeah, we recognize that a lot of these programs are relatively new. So it's okay if that date range is shorter than a year. We just don't want it to be longer than a year.
Можливо, тут ще є запитання від Тетяни Войтюк.
There is another question from Ms. Tatiana Wojciuk. She is asking about the requirements or the criteria for the organizations. So mainly we work with the non-profit organizations. And the question is about the non-profit organizations' experience. Let's presume that this organization has been just recently founded or has a very insignificant experience, like 1 or 2 years. Is there a criterion of experience?
Why don't I take this one? No, we fully expect that given the situation and the war in Ukraine, there will be many new nonprofits who will be able to deliver these outcomes. So even if you have been delivering outcomes just for the past 8 months, that is okay.
Далі, я так розумію, Філіс, що ми
Next, as far as I understand, we are not going to require the data from the audits during the preliminary periods. That's my understanding, right?
No, we will request data, whatever data they have, even if it's been a short period of time. So if they're new, that's fine. Just upload whatever data you have so far.
Можливо, ви не зрозуміли запитання.
Maybe I should articulate it differently.
To audit the previous years of their activity. Do we request them to
Financial audit. They are asking about the financial audit.
Okay, Jonathan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's fairly easy. The budget and resources section in the Impact Genome reporting platform is pretty simple. We're not asking you to do an audit. The only thing that we really want to focus on is simply what were the costs of running this program during the period you're reporting on. Just the basic, what is the cost? If that needs to be an estimate, that's totally fine. We just want the closest approximation of what it actually cost to run the program for this cycle, or if you're still sort of in the middle of that so far. So not asking you to do an audit, and we're not going to ask you to upload a lot of budget documentation. We're just going to ask about that number in this section.
Я власне про це, що зрозуміло, що якщо
Yes, that's what I mean. Of course, if you've got any kind of financial data, then you can share, but you do not need to send this data specifically. And the next question from Andre, what if it's a completely new program?
якщо цієї програми не було раніше.
If it
So
was
if the
been created
program
recently.
So the program has never, ever done anything before. This is the very first program. Am I understanding that correctly? And I'm going to ask Jonathan to take
Yes.
this. Okay. Jonathan, will you take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. If this is a brand new program that you're proposing, then what we would recommend is that for reporting purposes, report on a similar program you've run in the past. It doesn't have to be the same program. It could be a program that's focused on some of the same outcomes that you've run in the past, or a program that you've worked with the same beneficiaries in the past. But we recognize that some of these may be brand new, and thus we just want you to report on something that's similar, that will be able to provide the right amount of data that UBS can use to help make some of these decisions about proposed new programs.
This is Jason, and I will also say in some cases, you're just creating an entirely new program that's never existed before, and you've never done anything before. And that's okay too. The purpose of what we're trying to do is to get people to invest in the results that you are attempting to deliver. Even if you have no track record, you may be the only organization that's positioned to do this in a particular community. And so if they want those results to happen, you're the one they have to fund. So you don't have to always have a track record. A lot of times it's what you're promising to do or what the outcomes and results that you're designing a strategy to achieve. So this is really about telling your story and helping you communicate the results that you intend to produce, even if you haven't done them yet.
Тут ще Лілія Савенко спитала.
There is another question. Am I right in my understanding that each individual organization is free to submit several programs?
Одна організація може подати кілька програм.
So one organization may submit multiple programs, right?
For the impact genome system, that's correct. You can submit as many programs as you would like. Phyllis, I don't know if there's anything you want to say from your end of things, if that is welcome as well.
So we are very specifically focused on the two outcomes we're talking about, which is improved mental state and improved learning outcomes, so improved academic performance. Now, if you are an organization that has multiple ways to deliver that, I am not sure if that's the question, but I suspect most organizations will have one way to deliver on one of those outcomes. But if you can deliver both and you have two projects, one for the mental health improvement and the other one for learning improvement, then you would submit twice to the Impact Genome Project. I want to make sure that that answers the question. Could you just confirm that that answers the question?
Yes, thank you.
It is great, great. And I see we have another hand up from Victoria. Victoria.
Вікторія, будете говорити?
Victoria, are you going to take the floor?
She's speaking, but we don't hear her.
Ніби маємо чути.
Maybe she could type in her.
Вікторія, може тоді надрукуйте ваше запитання?
Victoria, please text your message and I will read it out loud because we can't hear you for some reason.
Так. Поки Вікторія пише.
Okay, while Victoria is typing her message, I will invite Mr. Yuri Privalov. She will tell us more about our schedules, about our steps during next weeks. And afterwards, we will come back to your questions. So Yuri, over to you. Can you hear me? Here is Yuri. Yuri?
Dmitry, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Good evening, everybody, those who is present at this webinar. It's a great pleasure of seeing lots of familiar faces. Not sure how things with you, but my brain is kind of overloaded slightly with all this information that we've heard up until now. So that's why I'd like to say a couple of things, just like Mitra has said. I would like to kind of repeat some most important things. Number one, the mechanism is of interest to me, the financing mechanism to finance the non-financial organizations. I think it's simpler than what we're acquainted with and what we've been using. So financing, I like about financing is that the organizers will try to finance the lower layer of the Ukrainian non-governmental organizations, which is good, which is the right thing to do right now under the circumstances. The other thing that I like within this trait is that what's being defined is the problem, and the target group has been defined. They are children, their mental health, and their learning and the quality of learning, education that they receive. And now Ukraine lives in very hard times. All the layers of society are suffering because of the war. But I think that one of the most vulnerable groups of society nowadays is children, the children of Ukraine. And it is so much important because those bad things, those the damage done to the children of Ukraine of today, there are two main features or properties that define that it's so much important to work with children. Number one being the bad things that children are undergoing are latent. We cannot see those bad things with an armed eye, but those things are there. And number two is the time that the impact of these bad things are prolonged in time. We cannot tell now what deviations, what fears will be there, will children have following what they're experiencing today. That's why we, just like Dmitro has said, we will launch several workshops, roundtables to get back to those questions that have been raised at today's webinar. Those issues are very important and difficult. We haven't done anything of the kind before, so that's why we will do it as soon as possible. I'm not going to be submitting any time frame. I will send it for you to have it, and we will coordinate the time frame with you and the dates when these workshops will be conducted. Please keep in mind that it all will happen in October. Definitely, it's got to happen in October. I'd like to express my gratitude to all those who've managed to participate and is participating in today's workshop. I'd like to express my gratitude to Impact Genome team for their launching this quite an interesting, and it seems to me quite an efficient mechanism of financing, of implementation of targeted programs for children under these hard wartime times. Thank you very much. Good evening to all of you, and care for you and your relatives and family members. Thank you very much, Yuri. And we've got, while Yuri has been talking, we've accumulated several questions, and it is good that we've got questions in English as well, so our colleagues have read those questions, and I think they're willing to reply to the questions in English. Am I right, Jonathan? The stand is yours.
Можливо, Джонатан дасть нам відповідь на кілька
Probably
запитань.
Jonathan will answer some of those questions in English, written in the chat.
Great. Yes, let's take a look here. And certainly, Phyllis, if you need to answer some of these as well.
I can answer one of them in the meantime, from Victoria, which was John. Well, I pointed out to you, Jonathan. One of them was, what if a nonprofit has multiple projects or programs?
So again, in the Impact Genome system, if you have multiple projects or programs, you're going to want to represent each of those distinctly. So you'll register each separate program, even if they work on the same outcome. You might have program 1, improved academic performance, and program 2 also works on improved academic performance, and you would do a distinct report on each of those. Other questions in the chat, I'm just skimming to make sure that we can ask. So we've got a question around institutional support of organizations which deal with psychological support for kids and teachers. So in particular, and Phyllis, again, please don't hesitate to respond as well, but in particular, we are looking at impacts made for children. So if it's a program that works with children and teachers, that's totally fine. We're specifically going to be looking for information about the impact that that program has on improved mental state for the children, the beneficiaries who are children in that instance. But there's certainly opportunities in the qualitative sections of the report to talk about other impacts that the program has, for example, on teachers or related beneficiaries. But the data in the report itself should focus on the beneficiaries who are children.
This is very good question. Maybe I'll translate it. Yeah. I like it very much. So the group worked since May as a volunteer initiative. Bula was the a volunteer initiative, and now they are started their registration as a non-profit organization. Yeah, but they have already outcomes. So can they submit their outcomes?
Certainly. Again, the system is designed to take lots of different types of organizations. Just because you haven't been registered yet, or as Phyllis said, even if your history of your organization is brief, that's okay. You've got data on outcomes, and that's what we want to see. You've got things that you can put in the report, so you are more than welcome to come in and report that information. And you can put some of that historical information in that section that Ha-Young showed about your organization in the description of your organization and your mission. Part of that might be that you want to include, hey, please note that we're just getting registered as an organization, but you are very welcome to come in. We want to see your data. We're so excited to have you.
I received another question, which is again this is the same about the newly established organizations or newly established program, even better to say, new social program. So he said, he asked Andrei asks, can he submit future results, prognosed results?
So for the impact genome side of things, and again, this is slightly different. So that pre-survey that you're going to fill out is going to be a little bit more future looking, and Phyllis can reference that. But the impact genome itself is really designed to look at past results. So whatever you have, again, even if it is limited, you can sort of work with it in that system. And if there's big questions about how exactly should we fill out this report, please don't hesitate. Reach out to info@outcomesx.com, and we can figure out the best way for you to input that data. But again, it doesn't need to be the exact same program. We know that some of these programs are new, so something else you've done in the past that's similar, or similar results or data that you might have, are perfectly fine to report on. We just want to have it conceptually related, even if it's not the same program. That's completely fine.
This is Jason, just to add to Jonathan's point. Typically, most programs have a track record. We understand these are extraordinary circumstances, and in many cases, you will have brand new programs with absolutely no track record whatsoever. I know that the funders will want to see these programs. So when you're entering in the information to the registry, you simply want to put in what you intend to do. Or what you expect your results to be, and acknowledge that in the form that this is yet to be delivered. Or as Jonathan said, if you've been doing things for a month or two, you can even put in that. It doesn't have to be years of track record. What we're trying to do is to showcase the results that you've actually achieved or that you intend to achieve, so that the funders can understand what they're investing in. So don't worry about your track record. Put in whatever you have, whatever information you have about what your organization is capable of doing, and we'll let the funders decide.
Okay, another question, Olga Stepan asking. They have a non-profit organization, 2 projects. They're working, they have Center of Child Development. They are working with healthy children, disabled children, refugees, internally displaced people. So can they apply for this project?
Of course, the criteria are children who are in Ukraine. And I believe it's up to the age of 18. So any children within the age group who are still in Ukraine, and any organizations that are working with those children can apply.
And this is Jason. I want to add one other thing. This is not a grant application. This is, again, sort of like online dating. We happen to have someone here who's interested in a very specific type of match, but we will be bringing new funders into the system all the time. So even if this is not exactly what your charity or nonprofit does, you should still register with the Impact Genome. It's completely free. We want your information there, and we can better help find funding for you if your programs are there. So don't think about this as a just one-time grant application. This is, you're signing up for a matching program to get money. And so we want to know who you are and what you do, even if it's not for these outcomes. We happen to have money at this moment in this, what we're calling a trade, meaning someone's buying or paying for these specific outcomes. But we also just want to hear from you anyway, and it will be worth your time. So the more of you that register, the more it will be easy for us to attract new funding for your work too.
Знову ж таки, я одразу хочу сказати, ну, кілька таких простих запитань.
I would like to ask you a couple of simple questions that I can answer up front. Children, according to the UN Convention, children between 0 and 18 years of age, full stop. I think it's clear. According to our legislation, it's the same. From 0 to 11 years of age. If you are a sport non-profit organization or non-sport organization, it doesn't matter what your name is. The most important is the outcome that you produce. So these are the 2 major vectors: improve the learning outcomes and improvement of health, mental health. The target audience is children between 0 and 18. It's better that these children, this children has something to do with war, if I may say so. So these should be IDP people, people with post-traumatic syndrome, children with post-traumatic symptoms, or children who've lost their houses and homes. But we're pretty much aware that we can expand this audience a little bit as well, the audience of beneficiaries, I mean. So, and other sources, if financing from other sources is engaged, this what's going to change? This is a good question. What do you mean, Lydia? Let me answer this. Why should, let me...
Розумієте, да, просто про це вже говорили.
Because we've spoken about this earlier today. So the thing is that you are loading information on the programs, and you're not writing, like, this is like key difference between what we have now to finance donors. We are non-governmental organizations. This is what we do when we work with the donor organization. We have a proposal put forward and send it to the donor organization. The donor organization gives us money and finances what we need. So we write reports. It's clear that this is like procuring the results of not at a competitive setting, but like state orders or something, you give it delivered to the state.
But in this case, you participate in a trade. You submit information and you offer some outcomes to businesses that are willing to be socially responsible. If they have such a desire, they may procure the outcomes. So, sorry, maybe I simplify this a little bit. Maybe you would like to add anything.
No, I think that was perfectly explained. It is a trade between buyers of social outcomes and sellers of social outcomes. Now, if people didn't have an opportunity to ask a question on this call, we are available. I think we put the email in there. And feel free, you can pose questions to us in Ukrainian or English. And, before people hang up, I want to say thank you, first of all, to UBS. This is extraordinary of them, that they are really breaking ground in this space. And so thank you, UBS. And thank you to all of you on this call. Together, we are going to change the world. We're going to make it so that the organizations that are delivering the best outcomes on the ground are getting the funding. And it is about time that we did that. So there's any other final words, Dima or anybody else? I can't thank all of you enough for participating in this. We're really, really excited to work with you.
Just wanted to thank you, Phyllis and UBS, for making this possible. Our goal is very simple. It's to get you money to fund the important work that you're doing. So thank you for being part of this new innovative experiment. This is the first time this has ever happened, and it will be hopefully the norm for the world. So thank you for bearing with us. Help us make it work better for you. Give us advice and feedback along the way. And we look forward to engaging with you.
Я, можливо, просто ще хочу наголосити.
Let me emphasize a couple of aspects. All of us are pretty busy people, and don't forget that time is limited. We have to submit the outcomes till November 15th. So those organizations that are not very confident users of English, contact us right now, because you will need more time. And the website, by the way, has been localized, has been translated into Ukrainian, so you can visit this site and read the materials in Ukrainian. And the next question, we have some question about the criteria. Do we need to provide any kind of certificate? Is there any entry and exit survey? Well, you are going to evaluate your outcomes yourselves, but of course there will be a questionnaire, entry and exit questionnaire, but you will read this information in the welcome package. If for some reason you did not receive this welcome package, you may visit our website, OutcomesX.com. There is also a question about the time limits. We already have a buyer. The buyer is ready to procure now. That's the reason for the time limits. Impact Genome team also needs some time to process your outcomes reported, and they have to finish this process till the end of this year to be able to sign the contracts with the organizations. And then organizations starting from the next year can implement their programs. You know everything about our donor organization. They may sign the contracts in March, for instance, but we want you to jump right ahead. Maybe Phyllis would like to explain you more.
I think in terms of the timeline, Dima, I think that's what you are talking about, right? So if it's in terms of the timeline, yes, we would like you to upload your data by mid-November. And again, the reason for this is, UBS has already put the money on the table. We want to also try to find other funders if we can. And then we do hope to get the funding out and make a decision by the beginning of next year. So that is the first quarter of 2023. And we'll continue to communicate with you throughout that process.
Jonathan, maybe you want to say a few words.
Sure. Well, we're so excited to work with you all. Again, to remind you of the basic recap of what we're asking you to do, go to outcomesx.com/Ukrainian relief. You can get started there, fill out that pre-survey. Those of you, once you've done the pre-survey and OutcomesX gets in touch with you, we'll send you the materials so that you can come to Impact Genome, you can register your programs, and you can report your impact. And then we will be in touch afterwards if we have any questions at all. Yes, perfect. So again, pre-screen, receive that invitation, come register your projects, add your programs, and report your impact about improved mental state and improved academic performance. We'll be in touch through that verification process. And in the future, you're just going to need to update that data instead of reporting it fresh. So we're so excited to hear from you. We're so excited to see this data and have these conversations. These are always, I think, our conversations in verifying data from folks like you, from practitioners on the ground, is always really generative, rich conversations. And we are so excited to be part of this project of helping you get the support you need to do the extremely excellent work that you are all doing and proposing doing. Thanks.
Great. So I think with that, Dima, are
Запитання.
we wrap up now?
Wrap up. Все, будемо тоді завершувати.
Great. Again, thank you, UBS. Thank you to all of you on this call. And thank you for your patience. You sat through a very long webinar, so we all really appreciate that. This is the first time we've done this, so please, we would love your feedback. Reach out to us directly. You have the email information, or reach out to Dima, and feel free to tell us what we did well and what we didn't do well, because we're learning as well. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Все, я теж дуже вам дякую.
Thank you very much. Many thanks to our speakers and our participants. Please contact us. We'll be looking forward to communication. See you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And bye-bye. Yes, thank you very much. Have a nice evening.